Reading seed packets. My name is Bethany Wolters, and I am going to give you some tips and tricks to make you look like you are a gardening pro. So the seed packets might look confusing. They have pretty pictures, and then you flip them over and all of a sudden there's all this information. But if you learn how to read seed packets, they are like a little mini gardening cheat sheet full of useful information. What is tricky is that different companies' seed packets look slightly different, and you might see different types of information in different places on each type of seed. But by the end of this video, you will know what information you can find on seed packets, where to find it, and what to do with it. So we're going to talk about the species and cultivar, planting dates, planting depth and spacing, the size of seeds, days to germination and harvest, and then growing conditions. The front of the seed is probably the easiest and most enjoyable part to look at because it includes pictures. On the front, in addition to the picture, you're also going to see the species name. Species refers to the type of plant. So for example, cucumbers, lettuce, tomato, those would all be the species. You'll also see cultivar or variety names because we have more than one type of tomato. And so this is the Rutgers cultivar of the tomato. Here we have the Green Dragon burpless cucumbers. If you have a favorite cultivar or variety, then you can find that one. If not, there's a lot of good choices out there, and through some experimentation, you can find some ones that you enjoy growing. Now, let's flip the seed packet over, and one thing you will see on the back usually is the plant description. This is a paragraph or a few sentences that gives descriptions of things like plant appearance, size, flavor, unique traits or features like leaf color, disease resistance. It may also include gardening information. So for example, on this cucumber seed packet, we have this little gardening tip. So reading the seed description can give you a lot of good information. Next, you'll need to find the planting date. And this can be confusing because you might have more than one date. You might see a direct seeding or a plant outdoors seeding date. And you also may see a start indoors or indirect seeding date. Direct seeding means you put the seeds in the ground outside and they grow in the ground. Starting indoors means you start plants in a small pot inside for a few weeks, and then when they're bigger, then you transplant them out into the garden. You can do either one. Generally, the start indoor date will be earlier than the start outdoors date. And you might either see a calendar date or weeks before or after frost. So on this seed packet here, we have a map of the United States, and each area is color-coded for what months of the year you can start planting. On this seed packet, it just says that you can start indoors 3 to 4 weeks before the last frost. And then you can plant outdoors after the last frost has passed. So if you're wondering how you know when the last frost is, here's a good rule of thumb. April 15th is the average date of the last frost in western Tennessee. Now, this is an average, so this is not a guarantee. If you want to be really sure that you won't have any frosts, you can wait a few weeks till the end of April or beginning of May. But generally, April 15th is the date when you can put seeds and plants outdoors, and they may not be killed by frosts. On the seed packet, you will find information on planting depth. Depth is really important, and this is one of the things you should follow exactly according to the directions. Some of these other things, if you There's a little bit of wiggle room, but depth is not one of them. So on the packet, it will show you what the depth is. For cucumbers, it's 1/2 inch. For this lettuce, it's 1/4 of an inch. When you know what the depth is, you can use a trowel or a pencil or your finger to make small holes, or maybe a narrow trench in the soil that depth where you'll plant the seeds. Next to planting depth, you'll see plant spacing, and there might be 2 different types of spacing. You will almost always see seed spacing, and this is how far apart you should put the seeds when you plant them, because we know that each individual plant needs enough space for its leaves and its roots. So for this tomato plant, it says 1/8 of an inch. Nope, 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch. So that's how far apart you should put each seed. This one also has additional information like how far each row of tomatoes should be if you are growing more than one row. You might also have a category that says space after thinning. And the space after thinning is 3 inches. Now that's much bigger than 1/2 inch. What happens is it's a good idea to plant a few extra seeds just in case 1 or 2 of them don't come up. And you will often end up with more than 1 seed per area or per pot. And when they're about this big, you can go in and choose the best one and gently pull out the rest of them. And this is called thinning. So you would put seeds out 1/2 inch apart. After a week or 2, pick the best one within that 3-inch section and remove all the rest. You may not see this space for thinning on certain seeds because it may not be as relevant. You will be told the days it takes for germination. This means how many days between the day you plant the seed in the ground and it starts to germinate, grow, and emerge up out of the soil. This is good to know because some seeds take a little bit of time. This lettuce seed, for example, takes 7 to 14 days. And if you knew that, then after 5 days, you wouldn't get really impatient and concerned because you knew you just needed to wait a few more days. If you've passed that germination period and you don't see any seeds that have germinated, it means probably there was something wrong and you can try again. You might also see days to maturity, and this tells you how many days from when you start the seeds in the ground to when the plant is full size or you can harvest it. So lettuce is pretty quick. It only takes a minimum of 40 days. There's a lot of other useful information you might find on seed packets. For example, it might tell you how big the plant is at maturity. So do you have space for a 6-foot tall sunflower, or would you prefer one that's like 2 feet tall? It may tell you whether or not this plant wants full sun or shade. Sometimes it'll give you tips on watering and nutrients. And so one of my tips for you is to save your seed packets somewhere so you can go back and refer to them if you need, or maybe take a picture of them so that you don't have to keep track of that paper package. Now, not all the information we went over in this video will be on all the seed packets, but you should be able to find most of this information. And if there's something else you want to know that you're not told on the seed packet, you can always do a little bit of research on the internet or in books, because things for growing cucumbers typically apply to all cucumber types, for example.